Hi, and welcome to another edition of Seniors Today. I'm your host, Tom Bartee, and our guest today is Ms. Terri Pohrman, who is an expert and a local advocate for mobile homeowners. Welcome.
I am. Thank you, Tom. Terrific.
Well, thanks for being here.
You're welcome.
It's terrific having you today.
Oh, it's great. It's terrific having you.
Oh, well, thanks. It's great being had. So, you have become heavily involved in activities of both educating mobile homeowners and interfacing with regulatory agencies to protect their rights. Mm-hmm. And you know, I really respect what you do on an ongoing basis to help people. And you have sort of single-handedly created the Mobile Home Coalition here in Vallejo. What do you call that organization?
The Vallejo Mobile Home Coalition.
Okay. I should have remembered that myself. And you actually have a regular magazine
that comes out every month.
Yeah, we'll try to get this on the screen a little closer for people. And anybody that is interested can be
They can look on
this.
the website. We have a website, and we have a lot of drop-downs and pull-downs. It's really very good. And our magazines for the last 2 months are on there, plus our current one. And they can look at them online if they care to. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of valuable information for people that live in mobile homes, because living in a mobile home is different than a stick house, a regular house. And there are rules and regulations. We have laws. We have a book of laws. We're the only state. California is the only state that has the book of ordinances. And we're supposed to abide by them. However, half the people don't know. The owners and the managers of the mobile home park, they used to give them out every first of the year, a paper edition. Of course, we get the larger edition, the bound edition from your office, Bill Dodd's office, and they should really read that. I mean, it's great reading. I know we have it in Spanish, and there's also Vietnamese. And so if not, we can get a translator to go over things. And we have a meeting every third Sunday at the Moose Lodge on Nebraska Street here in Vallejo.
What time?
Oh, it starts at 2 o'clock.
Okay.
It has great parking. It's very safe. They've got cameras every place. It lasts for about 2 hours, and we try to highlight on things that interest and happen in mobile home parks throughout the month. There's always something that somebody's calling me on. I tell them anymore, don't call me on a burnout light bulb on your light. Don't call me with that. I want some meaty things. I want some sewer backups. I want rough roads, bad driveways, managers that are misbehaving, those kind of things. I've been doing this for almost 15 years now. I started out with a company called GMSOL, Golden State Manufactured Home League. And
can you say that again?
Golden State Manufactured Home League.
Okay.
GSMOL.
Okay.
And I was the vice president of this area. My area was from South San Jose to the Oregon border. And during the time that I was that, I probably went in over 100 mobile home parks. And I was always gone. And when I moved to Vallejo 5 years ago, I couldn't find a house in Napa County that I'd been at for 38 years. I couldn't find something that was available. So I was coming home from San Francisco one day, and I remembered this park. And it kind of looked like Lake Tahoe, and it was in a nicer area of Vallejo. So I went in it, and I drove through, and there was nothing available, and here was the home. And I remember that Vallejo did have rent stabilization. I always remember that. And I thought, well, I'm safe. I've got rent stabilization. I've got a great house, and it's an estate house. I don't have to do too much work. So I bought it and moved to Vallejo. And it's near Maritime Academy. It's really a nice park. I wouldn't call it a 5-star park, but maybe 3-star park. Every park has issues. Every mobile home park has issues. Generally, they're 50, 60, or 70 years old. The plumbing shot, the electricity shot, there are some issues. And what a lot of people don't understand is that when you move in a mobile home park, they give you a book of, or several papers of what you're supposed to do abiding in that park, just like you do in an apartment building or renting a house. These are the things that you have to abide by. And one of them is keeping your space up. You have, down at Carquinez Highlands, we have quite large spaces. And, you know, you keep the weeds pulled, keep it looking nice. But these managers, they work for about $10 an hour, and I don't know when the hell they get them, but they get them from someplace. And they really don't know what they're doing. And they're creating havoc. And then, then I come along and I see the havoc there going on. And sometimes we have to get a mobile home attorney, which there's only about 4 or 5 in our area. And probably in the next 5 years, they'll retire. So we're looking at some new attorneys, like the last one you had on, but he sounds very content with what he's doing. A mobile home park attorney is very specialized. They have to know all the laws, the loopholes, the managers, the owners of the park, and try to understand all that. So it's quite a ball of wax. But
so statewide, I think there is it 4,700
mobile home parks.
Parks statewide, and the average park has 200 people.
Right.
So what does that calculate to? 4,700 for 400. That's 800,000 people.
Yeah.
Out of almost 40 million in the state of California. That's a pretty high percentage.
And I hope to God we're all voters.
Yeah, that's always.
I hope we're voters.
That's always worth keeping in mind. But because of that, it's they're kind of a forgotten sector of the population, and part of that is also because the laws that impact their buildings and the structures in their parks and their roads and everything is a separate set of laws from the rest of each of state law that would impact municipalities. So the legal process and the management agency for mobile home parks is separate from the rest of the state government.
Exactly.
And so the Department of Housing and Community Development has the responsibility for managing that section of state law. And having dealt with it myself fairly frequently, you find that the support for the mobile home parks isn't quite as strong as it might be, particularly because mobile homeowners are generally a pretty vulnerable population, and normally they're older, and they may not all be computer literate, and it's a difficult situation, and many of those people need help, and clearly you've been stepping up to try to help fill that gap. So I know they appreciate it. I know I really appreciate it. But right now, a big issue is the rent control, and apparently, or you call it rent stabilization. Apparently, in Vallejo, which is a whole nother story on what happened with their rent control ordinance for mobile home parks, but Vallejo has that in place right now, and there's a state law that is going through the Senate right now. It's called, is it 1482? AB 1482, and they're looking at doing statewide rent stabilization or rent control with a 10% cap, and also just cause eviction clause, which would apply to mobile home parks that do not have currently a rent stabilization ordinance in place. So that's something that you've been working on.
I've been working on that and working on that. I wrote emails to the committee. I wrote emails to the governor saying this is not good for mobile home park people because we rent the dirt. We own the house, but we rent the dirt. And that 54 feet of land is not worth $800 or $1,000. These parks are old and paid for. These are cash cows. I did an article for the Bloomberg News about 5 years ago about them being cash cows. Millionaires. I mean, most of these people that own mobile homes, they have several condos in Cabo San Lucas and Mazatlan and Puerto Vallarta in Europe. They also have jets, and you know, we don't get those with peanuts. Overall, the mobile homes are the last affordable housing in America, and a lot of people discount a lot of people, and they forget about these people. They're poor people. Who cares? That's what they think. And I remember when I was a kid that a lot of that mobile homes in the 50s just came to the height of it, and everybody was selling their stick house to go to mobile homes. Well, then they came to find that there was problems with the landlord and this and that and the other thing, and then a lot of people sold them off. But again, now there are winery owners, there are all kinds of people, like in the Napa Valley. I'm working on their rent stabilization right now in Napa, Yountville, and St. Helena. And these people would be a good person for this 1482 because none of them have rent stabilization. So their dirt could cost them $1,000, $2,000 a month, which is ridiculous. They should have revised this. All I was asking for was somebody to revise it. But they didn't do it. They're not thinking clearly. A lot of these people are like the city council. They have properties and they're slumlords. And, all they think is this way. They don't know about mobile homes because it is a beast in a beast. And they think, oh, those people in the mobile homes, while they're living in Hidden Brook or of their Green Valley. It's really kind of unfair the way a lot of people get treated in mobile homes because they say, oh, you live in a mobile home. They're thinking of the old trailers in the 40s and the 30s, the trailers, but they're called mobile homes. Not that they can be moved, but they've addressed them now as mobile home, manufactured home. Mm-hmm. And some are very beautiful. If you go to Rancho de Napa up in Yountville, you'll see a winery owner has put three together. He paid $600,000 for this mobile home, manufactured home.
Well, I heard yesterday that in Napa, number of elected officials were at a seminar, did a tour, and a two-bedroom apartment, two-bedroom, one bath in Napa can go for as much as $3,200 a month. And you have the juxtaposition of mobile homes where I know they're only paying for the lot mm-hmm. with their rent and their utilities, but there's people paying $400 to $700 a month because of rent stabilization. And it's the disparity between the current market, which has created the housing crisis mm-hmm. for everybody else, and those low rents. There's tremendous what's the word I'm looking for? Pressure isn't the right word, but the park owners see that discrepancy and go, well, what can I do to increase my return? Mm-hmm. And a lot of them are doing that without thinking about the people that are renting those spaces, and they're on fixed incomes and low income. And so many park owners are doing what they can to bypass the rent stabilization ordinances. Mm-hmm. And in some cases, it's trying to push people out so they can take over their home and resell it at a higher rate, or to create an empty space so they can rent it to people that, for example, several parks in Vallejo, they have a lot of people there that are transients from other parts of the country that go there and stay for 3 or 4 months and would work on a turnover at the refinery or something like that, and they can get $700 a week mm-hmm. instead of $400 to $700 a month. So it's a real battle.
It's called greed.
Well, I think that's right.
Or after the fires that were up in Napa County, there was one mobile home owner down here that went to Fair Housing Napa Valley, I want to hand out flyers for the fire victims. She wanted $1,000 as space rent. Not even 54 feet in her park.
Mhm.
I mean, a disaster park.
Well, I know that there was legislation a couple years ago to also, because of the fires, people were from Lake County were trying to go to Calistoga, and they had no place to go, and they were trying to live with their grandmother or their mother in the mobile home, and the park owners wouldn't allow that to happen. And there were some rules in place, so the law was changed to allow for cohabitation of non-owners, and also like not for people other than a spouse. And you know, that was a good thing, and that helped
It was a great thing.
loosen up.
For mobile homes, it was a great thing.
Yeah. So there's a lot of challenges and a lot of issues, and what are some of the other big things that you're working on right now?
Well, right now, my big thing is to get Napa, Yountville, and St. Helena all rent stabilization. And talking about and listening to this, they probably think, oh, we can do this in a week or 10 days. Well, it doesn't work like that in a mobile home. Sometimes I have one mobile home park that I was involved with working on their rent stabilization. It took 12 years in Marin to get this rent stabilization. Back and forth to the council, back and forth, and it's very expensive. I mean, the one putting back in place that was taken away in Vallejo was $10,000. You know, it was $10,000, and it was a lot of work by a lot of people that we got organized and, you know, picketing, you know, different places. And, you know, once again, you know, I brought in an attorney that has 40 years in the mobile home park business, so it's really an authority. And, you know, people wouldn't listen to him. I mean, you know, I think some of the stuff that I gave to them, the packets, they didn't even read. And so how can you not read or listen to somebody that has more experience than you do? I mean, I know there are like 2 or 3 realtors on the council here, and we asked them to be excused because they have rental property, and we're talking and fighting about rent stabilization. Realtors are not mobile home friends. We're just not friends. They get money from the WMA, the Western Manufactured Home League. That's the owner's defense to a person like I. I'm really just a small person. I do try to help people, and a lot of times I have to refer people, but I refer people to our attorneys. Yeah, they're expensive, but you know, if you're going to win your battle, you've got to go to one of these mobile home attorneys that cuts the chase down. They don't have to get in an MRL and look all this stuff up. They already know the MRL, which is the mobile home residency law that comes out every year. That some new laws are passed, and sometimes they're not passed. They're in this bound book that we get from your office. And the rent stabilization is really my focus. 2 weeks ago, we now turned our organization to a nonprofit, and so we'll be working on grants and you know, going out to people that I know in the community. I mean, I'm 38 years in Napa Valley, so I know a lot of people, and you know, they trust me. I mean, I've had 38 years of showing people that I'm not a schmuck, that when I'm speaking and talking about something, you know, they listen. They know that I'm not a cuckoo woman. I mean, a lot of people think that, but I don't care.
Well, I would never make that assumption. But another interesting thing is right now, as we said earlier, the Housing and Community Development has a responsibility to address construction issues, permit issues, health and safety issues in mobile home parks. Mm-hmm. And they have a formal complaint system that can be managed online. Mm-hmm. And they have inspectors that are dedicated to follow up on those complaints. Mm-hmm. But we have some history even here locally that sometimes the inspectors' interests aren't always directly focused at the mobile home owner, but maybe more towards the park owner. And so because of some of those issues, the consultant to the Select Committee on Mobile Homes in Sacramento, working in conjunction with the State Auditor's Department, have set up what is currently an audit of HCD to verify that they're following their due diligence and they're exercising their fiduciary responsibility to the mobile home owners as well as park owners. So do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I think it's something that I addressed about, I don't know, maybe 12 years ago at a big conference. I addressed HCD because I was going to so many parks and I couldn't figure out why these things weren't taken care of. But I think that a lot of these guys go in and out, and they're state workers, so they go home and watch Oprah in the afternoon instead of out inspecting. Or when they do a inspection of a mobile home park, they take a small one that was done 5 or 8 years ago and go in. They can do it in 2 and 3 days, and out the door they go, and then they can watch the Long Ranger. You know, I mean, honestly, you know, I'm not really fond of HCD. I've asked another agent, you know, I've asked the governor to appoint somebody else that, you know, wants a job. I mean, we're talking about people's lives. You know, a lot of people, like I say, when they buy a mobile home, they think that they can add on to it, they can do this, they can do that. But a mobile home is different than a stick house. You have to have permits, you've got to have them inspected. You know, when you go to sell that place, it's hard to sell when you know, jack the floor up and put all this money into it, and then they come out and say, no, no, no. And I've even accused HCD, which is the Housing Community and Development, of taking money from the mobile home park owners, because we have several here that are in Vallejo that are just awful. And you know, the owners, they don't do anything. They buy and sell these mobile homes, put them in there. They don't have permits for half the things. And these inspectors don't do anything. I've got pictures of mobile homes. One that comes to mind is somebody bought a Chinese wagon up there in the flea market up there, moved it down to their mobile home park, put it next to their mobile home, cut a hole in their mobile home, and now they use it for a living room. And last time I was delivering my magazines, I see now they've got a fan in it to get air conditioning. I mean, shouldn't an inspector look at that? I mean, that's cuckoo.
Yeah, you would think they would. One other issue that has come up recently is with the everything that the state of California is doing, trying to prepare people for future wildfires. They've made some mandates that PG&E take responsibility for their power lines, and in high-risk areas, the whole state has been defined, low risk, high risk, medium, that they be proactive in terms of notifying residents power shutdowns, so that in high wind and high temperature conditions, that the power lines or the power to those lines can be shut off temporarily in case those wind conditions would make the lines drop and cause a major fire. But one of the issues for parks has been that PG&E normally can go direct to the accounts that they have and notify people, but in the park they have group accounts. So the only person that actually has an account with PG&E is the owner. So there's been a challenge there to figure out how the owner can notify everybody in the park of an impending power outage. And I know you've been an advocate.
I've been working on that, and you know, people that have to have oxygen or have the mask at night, and they have to have these things for medical, you would think that the park owners would tell the park managers to put all these people or have a list, and that's their duty. But when you pay somebody $10 an hour and their teeth look like a picket fence, you know, like they're a crack addict, I mean, how do you convince them to do this? You know, I'm not the park police, you know, and we told the city council we are not the park police because they made the ordinance of the rent stabilization, but a lot of these parks are not following it by offering month-to-month rent, so they're on rent stabilization or a long-term lease. We've got one park that's offering 35-year leases for an old dumpy mobile home.
Yeah, and for people that are 80 years old.
Yeah.
That
I
doesn't
told the
make
lady, I
sense.
said, well, both will be dead by the time you get,
Yeah,
the
that's right.
lease going, because the lease doesn't stop with them. They have to sell the lease to the new people in a mobile home.
Mhm.
Doesn't transfer over unless you sell that to them and say, oh, I've got 28 years on this lease. Then it transfers over. So the new people go to the office and they'll say, well, I got 28 years. Well, you need 35. So the office sells them a few more years.
Mm.
So that's how that works. And there are parks here in Vallejo that are just, I mean, I don't know how people can sleep at night that do this.
Well, there's probably more issues than we have time to discuss today. Matter
We'll
of
do it at
fact,
your office, Tom.
okay. Well, matter of fact, we're out of time. So I want to thank you for being here and thank you for what you do as an advocate for mobile homeowners. And we'll have to have you on again sometime.
Thank you, Tom. Terrific.
Thank
You are
you.
terrific.
Thank you so much. So with that, our show airs on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 6 p.m. on Comcast 27, AT&T UVerse 99, and streaming live video at vcat.tv. Come see us again next time.